The platform was empty, deserted. Michael shivered, pulling his coat tighter against the biting wind. It was always colder underground. The air held a dampness that clung to him, seeped into his bones. He checked his watch again. 2:47 a.m. Where was the train? A low rumble echoed from the tunnel. Finally. Headlights cut through the darkness, reflecting off the slick tracks. The train screeched to a halt, doors sliding open with a pneumatic hiss. Michael stepped inside, the doors clamping shut behind him with a finality that sent a shiver down his spine. The train car was eerily empty, save for a handful of passengers scattered throughout. He chose a seat near the middle, facing the opposite direction. That was his habit. He liked to see where he'd been, not where he was going. He glanced at the other passengers, each lost in their own world, faces obscured by shadows or hats pulled low. He quickly looked away. Something felt off. As the train lurched forward, picking up speed, Michael couldn't shake the feeling of unease. He stole another glance at his fellow passengers. There was a woman across from him, dressed in a tattered shawl, her face hidden. A man sat further down, his head bowed, a wide-brimmed hat casting his features in shadow. He looked out the window, trying to ignore the prickling sensation on the back of his neck. But instead of his reflection, he saw them. Their faces, pale and gaunt, pressed against the glass, eyes like black marbles, staring at him. He blinked, heart hammering, and they were gone. Just his own reflection, distorted by the passing darkness. He tried to focus on the rhythmic clatter of the train, the flickering lights overhead. But the image of those faces lingered, burned into his mind. He found himself holding his breath, afraid to blink, afraid of what he might see next. The train rattled on, station after station flashing by, but the doors never opened. No one got on or off. Michael watched, a knot of dread tightening in his stomach as the platform lights illuminated the empty spaces where passengers should have been. He was trapped. He tried to speak, to call out, but his voice died in his throat. The other passengers sat motionless, their silence amplifying the screech of the wheels against the tracks. He was surrounded by stillness, a sea of unmoving bodies, their silence more deafening than any scream. His gaze darted from one passenger to the next, searching for any sign of recognition, any hint of humanity. But their faces were blank masks, their eyes vacant and cold. He was alone, utterly alone. Panic welled up inside him, choking him. He squeezed his eyes shut, willing this nightmare to end. But when he opened them, it was worse. The faces of the passengers had shifted, contorted into grotesque parodies of human features. Long, sharp teeth glinted in the dim light, eyes bulged, pupils dilated with an unholy hunger. Every time he blinked, the faces morphed, becoming more terrifying, more alien. He couldn't escape them. They were everywhere, surrounding him, closing in. His sanity frayed, each horrifying image chipping away at his grip on reality. He screamed, a primal sound of fear and despair, and the train lurched violently. The lights flickered, plunged him into darkness. He braced himself, waiting for the inevitable impact. But it never came. When the lights flickered back on, he was met with nothing. He was alone. The train car was empty. The doors slid open, revealing a brightly lit platform bustling with people. He stumbled out, gasping for air, clutching at his chest. Had it been a dream? A hallucination? He glanced back at the train, its doors closing with a final hiss. And for a fleeting moment, he saw her. The woman in the tattered shawl. Their eyes met. She smiled, a slow, chilling smile that stretched her lips into an unnatural grin, revealing rows of needle-sharp teeth. Then the doors closed, and the train disappeared into the tunnel.